Wait, did we do this on purpose?
But do we all have Seattle
Everyone's got a
hats?
Seattle hat on.
Yeah, that's on.
Evan's influence is just, I guess, wearing down on all of us, I guess. I don't know.
Did you get the memo?
It's fraud.
Fraud City. What is going on, everybody? Welcome to the Washed Kings podcast, the show where a couple of cousins talk hoops, the NBA, and keep you updated on everything you need to know about your Denver Nuggets, especially this offseason. We're going to be making a lot of content this summer. It is Wednesday night, May 28th, around 8:30 Mountain Time. I'm your host, Cam Kennedy, and I got a nice little panel with me today. Pat Kennedy, Evan Kennedy, and Matthew Hinnon. Fellas, what's going on? How's the Nuggets offseason treating you so far?
I think you mean Pacific time, Cam, because we're wearing Seattle hats.
I know. What's going on here?
I'm 3 hours ahead with my hat. But, off-season's going all right. Given a little bit of time to reflect. Thank God for the Chicago Cubs. I've kind of pivoted my sports rooting for the Cubs, and they've got a good season going. So good vibes all around here.
Yeah, good vibes here, too. Was able to refocus on the other things and actually enjoy the playoffs for a minute there and not have any stake in it has been kind of nice. But as we were just talking about, we did the Boulder, so we had our minds focused on that, and now we're looking ahead to the off season.
Yeah, I've been in the middle of a moving apartments, so that's been my past 6-7 days, just ready to dive back into Nuggets basketball and talk about the off season. We got a lot of stuff to cover that happened in the last week and a half, 2 weeks. So I'm excited for what affords in the future.
Where'd you find that hat?
It's definitely been.
Is that behind a couch or something?
It is straight corduroy.
Got a couple Ken Griffey's representing on the hats tonight.
Oh, yeah.
Seattle Supersonics for all the listeners on Spotify and Apple, and then just a regular Mariners hat from Evdog. So we're repping Seattle right now. No, I mean, the offseason's been treating us, or me, nice too. It's been kind of nice, like Evan mentioned, just watching some of these games without having too many emotional stakes into it and just kind of enjoying the basketball that we've seen. There's been some really good basketball and some boring basketball, especially this OKC-Minnesota series so far, which, speaking of, OKC is going to go to the finals tonight. They are blowing out Minnesota, and that's kind of not been an interesting series to watch. But then we also had a boys' night with Matt the other night, which was a good time in the Frog, so shout out to those guys. And we had a good little time downtown. And then, Pat, like you said, the Cubbies are on a roll right now. They just swept the lowly Rockies. PCA is going to win MVP this year, and they got one of the best offenses in the league right now. So I'm excited to keep watching them this summer. Sorry, Matt, I know you're a Cards guy, but we'll see how that shakes out in the Central.
They beat the Orioles today. Not that that's a super big flex, but
the Cardinals have been playing better.
They have been playing good baseball.
Better. Yeah,
they've been playing good baseball. So we're missing Kennedy Phillips tonight. Second show in a row because his parents are in town, but we miss you, Bear. We hope to hear from you soon.
Speaking of St. Louis, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. But on today's show, let's get into it. We're going to be talking about the Nuggets' new... Oh. No, go for it.
There's a delay on that. No, sorry. There's a delay.
Probably.
Forget it. Let's cut that out.
Don't make Matt's job hard.
Or not. Leave it in.
Yeah.
leave
it in. We're doing it like it's live, and we're going to keep going. So on today's show, we're going to be talking about the Nuggets' new head coach, David Adelman, who was officially named the head coach last week. We'll get everyone's reaction to that decision, but we're also going to be going over the press conference that him and Josh Kroenke gave today. And later on, we're going to look into some of the offseason moves and things we expect from the Nuggets this summer. But guys, the Thunder are up 1 million points. We mentioned that, and then just a couple other things too, running through my notes right now. But just to mention what the Thunder have been looking like so far, in a little bit of a layup line here. Man, they look really good, and I think this makes the Nuggets look a lot better, especially Jokic. Ant and Randall have been awful in this series, and it just goes to show you how all-time level this defense is for the Thunder and how amazing Jokic is. I looked at the numbers. He averaged like 28, 14, and 6 on 48, 32, 81 splits in the series, which is not great for a typical Jokic series, but against this Thunder's defense, it looks pretty incredible. Any thoughts on how much better the Nuggets look coming out of this playoffs, and especially Jokic.
I think I called it, but I don't know. I don't really want OKC to go any further, just as a fan of watching the NBA. But I do think this makes us look a lot better. It makes me feel better about our performance and our outlook going forward. So like I know that we as Nuggets fans tend to worry about wasting Jokic's prime, about not being built for these moments anymore. But I think that shows that we have some life, and I think that Adelman contributed a lot to that. And I think we know that we were missing a shoulder, we were missing a hamstring, and I don't know, man. We could very well be on our way to the finals.
A hand.
Yeah, a hand.
Westbrook's hand.
We'll learn that later. Yeah. So I feel vindicated a bit, which is nice.
Yeah, I mean, the Nuggets were busted and bruised, as Evdog was saying, and we went 7 games with a great OKC team that we're the only ones in the last couple of years that have really battle tested against OKC. So really does make the Nuggets look good, especially like only had 6 guys, and we were able to do that, and on an off Jokic performance too throughout the series too. So I don't know, good things ahead, especially if we make some good changes in the offseason, as long as the teams, we got more than just 6 guys to play around with come postseason.
Yeah, I mean, watching this OKC team, do what they do best is kind of just something to tip your cap to. And I know we like to think, and it's probably true, that it makes the Nuggets look a lot better. And we've been talking about, Twitter's kind of looking at Jokic and being like, wow, he's actually really good. We thought, I think, the mainstream media thought that, the Timberwolves were going to have a better shot against this OKC team, and they, they really haven't. And I think it kind of speaks volumes when you have a lot of people going, online and saying, Yoke's actually the real deal. And it's frustrating as a fan, for sure, to kind of jump on the words of a couple of guys over at DNVR. It's frustrating because we've been on this for years, and he's won multiple MVPs before this, and people are now just starting to I'm glad, and like Evan said, I'm vindicated. It feels vindicating that we have a situation where everybody's like, all right, we're gonna give Yoke more flowers than we usually do. But man, it's like we're sitting here saying, yeah, like we knew that, like that's we knew this was, we knew Jokic was a player like this. So but man, I got to give a lot of props to Oklahoma City and their front office for putting a team like this together, and for the team to go out and play the way that they have. Man, it's infuriating as a Nuggets fan, and that series was infuriating. But man, you gotta give them a whole lot of props. They've really done something special here, and we're probably gonna see it out to the end, barring the Pacers doing something crazy. But man, I'm kind of, I don't want to say I'm all in on OKC winning it, but it's hard to go against that point.
You can't say that when you're wearing a Seattle hat.
We're supposed to be on the Sonic side here. No, I mean, you guys all hit the points for sure. I mean, it's a little bit of copium in some ways that we feel, we can feel better after a loss, which sounds weird. Like you never really feel good after a loss, but like sometimes you just get beat by an all-time team, and that's really what the Thunder are proving to be, especially on the defensive end, an all-time defense. Like all the numbers would back that up, and they're putting on an unbelievable show in this playoffs, and they're going to be here forever, or not forever, but for the foreseeable future. I mean. And I guess it does give the Nuggets kind of a measuring, stick to kind of measure to, and to kind of see if this is, who to beat and what to try to look for. But, Matt mentioned it a little bit. Looks like the Pacers are going to be the representation out of the Eastern Conference as well. Are you guys excited for an OKC versus Pacers series?
Go Pacers.
I am, yeah. It's 2 teams that at the beginning of the season, you probably didn't think we're going to make it, excuse me, this far, especially the Pacers team. They're a really fun team. I'm sure we'll talk about it towards the end, but they kind of remind me a lot of the Nuggets on the East. Just a fun team to watch, and hopefully they can kind of test OKC a little bit more than some of these other teams outside of the Nuggets can.
I thought something interesting about the matchups that we have now going into the finals is that it's none of the teams that you'd ever expect to be there in some way. Like if you look in the past, like 10, 20 years of the NBA, like who are the teams that are usually good? There's always like LA or Golden State or like some other names that we've grown
Cleveland.
used to. Yeah, Cleveland.
With LeBron.
Yeah, and like now we have Indiana, Minnesota, Oklahoma City, and the Knicks.
Now we go back a few years now, and you're starting to look at finals matchups that were super like improbable. Like even last year, nobody would have said Dallas was going to be coming out of the West. The Heat come out of the East to play the Nuggets.
Mm-hmm.
You keep looking back, and there's a couple teams that come through. Like the Warriors came through and beat the Celtics the year before that. So like it is kind of unique. Like this era that we've been in has been on my mind a lot recently. And the Pacers are added to that list of teams that you just didn't expect to be there and be in the finals, but here they are. But Matt, are you excited for this matchup?
I wasn't done.
Oh,
Go ahead,
sorry,
Ev.
Ev. You keep going. No, just steal the floor, man.
Do you
No,
move?
just keep going.
Keep going. Keep going, man.
No. I just think that's so cool. I wanted to wax poetic on that a little bit because, like, I don't know.
For sure.
Like, you think about the NFL, right? Like, it's been the Chiefs nonstop, and then before that, it was the Patriots, and even the Broncos to some extent. Yeah. So I like when things are chaotic and when we have teams and fresh faces that we don't get to see very often. So yeah. But now to you, Matt.
Thank you, Dog. I wanna kind of grow off, or
Grow.
Do what now?
What was that?
Do we need the hymns ad right now?
we might.
Is that
need
Matt saying something sus with the
Cue the hymns.
boys?
Cue the hymns.
I regret my words. No, I want to kind of piggyback off of the parody situation that we are now kind of growing accustomed to as somebody's revving their engine outside of my window. I think it speaks volumes to what the league is trying to do in terms of the parity situation, and that is to have a different team in the finals every year and kind of make the league a little bit more competitive,
Less dynasties
in that way, and less dynasties. Even though as a fan you love to see that for your team, and I think that goes without saying. However, if you're a casual NBA fan, that Golden State run, I know, got boring for a lot of people. And I think
boring.
I hated it.
Yeah, and I think they saw that, and I think that was whether we can speculate on that or not, but I think that was a huge part in making the second apron and that situation the way that it is now, and creating this new CBA is that we have a different team, and that fan base gets to enjoy the fruits of their team's labor, and I think it makes the front office side of things a little bit more competitive. It makes that situation a little bit more you can put people on the hot seat a little bit more, and I think owners and GMs are starting to feel that for sure. But yeah, I'm excited for this series, man. I think it's going to be a good one. I think there's going to be a lot of good basketball played. I mean, these are two teams that pride themselves on good. The Pacers pride themselves on good offense, and Oklahoma City prides themselves on good defense and transition. And I think they can. I think it'll be one heck of a series, and I'm excited. Sure. I'm excited to watch it for sure.
Yeah, I'm definitely looking forward to it. I think it's sort of like a case of the best defense versus maybe not the best offense, but like at least one of the top three, top two. Certainly in the playoffs. A team that likes to get out and transition in the Pacers, like you said, Matt, and then a team, or they also take care of the ball, and then a team like OKC that makes you turn the ball over. So yeah, I'm really looking forward to it. I think it'll actually be a really fun series as long as the Pacers hold on and beat the Knicks. But let's get into now the Nuggets sides of things. We're about 15 minutes in. We're going to start getting to the Nuggets show, part of the Nuggets show. So segment one, we're going to talk about the Adelman, decision and the hire. This happened last week. real quick, I want to get everybody's kind of reactions to that. I think last show we were on, we were very quickly at the end, we said, does Adelman get the job? And I think a bunch of us were like, I think so. And then not that much later, it was announced that he did get the job. So first reaction, just maybe give a little quick answer about if this is something that you like and that you're excited about.
Yeah, real quick. As soon as we got the news, I was like, holy cow, that was a quick decision. Hopefully they didn't jump the gun on that. Hopefully the Cronkies weren't being cheap. But after talking with you, Cam, talking with you guys, and especially after the presser today, I've gotten a lot more confidence with the decision. Obviously, Adelman will have a whole summer training camp to work with. So I think it's really good to, make the decision earlier than later.
Yeah, I think based on everything that we've heard about his presence in the locker room and his rapport with the team, I think there's a lot of reasons to feel optimistic about it. I think if they had offered him the full-time job before the playoffs, I think everybody would have felt pretty skeptical, but he has more than proved himself. And I think that there's a good balance of like having been there before, but also bringing a fresh perspective, which is good. So I think he'll have a more fresh strategic perspective going forward for the team, but also he's got all the relationships, a lot of the same staff. So we'll stay in our system, but hopefully make the right adjustments. So I think that's what I'm hoping for, but we'll see.
Yeah, I just kind of to reiterate what you guys said. I really think it's a good. I think it's a strategic hire in more than one way. Yeah, David Adelman's been around the Nuggets for a long time. I think one of the best things about this hire is that he was as close as you can get with Michael Malone, and I think he was probably the biggest fly on the wall for all the stuff that went wrong, and for all of the things that kind of fell apart in the end, and throughout this last season, he was privy to all of that, and I think it's a good thought process to know what you want to do. I think it's a better thought process to also have what not to do in those situations, and I think David Adelman has a lot of insight into both of those things. He's a guy that coming up through the Nuggets organization. I mean, he's been there for a long time. He's been there, I think, 20 plus years. I think he's done almost every job that you can on the front office level. But I think he'll bring something. I think he'll bring something different to this squad. And we saw the players kind of rally around him, right? I think he was, as a lot of us can attest to, at least, three of us here, I think, Dog, you can attest to this too, is assistant coaches are, kind of, I would hesitate to say the fun coaches in sports, but they're usually the guys that kind of have a different mindset and a different outlook than a head coach. And I've had, my fair share of bad coaches in the past. I know, Cam and Pat, you guys have as well. So it's one of those things that you bring in a guy that has a fresh outlook, but has also been a fly on the wall in the same organization and knows what not to do. I think is something that you can't replace in that situation. So I like it. I think we're going to go through growing pains with him for sure, and as you do with every head coach. But I think he'll work well, and he's got a lot of experience to draw from, especially working with his dad and different GMs and different head coaches throughout the league. I think he has a prime spot, and I think he's so ready for this situation, and I think he showed that going into the playoffs.
Yeah, no, good point. I mean, you're right. I think that's something I wanted to definitely get into about this discussion, was that Adelman knows what not to do and what the Cronkies don't want. What they, all the stuff that they saw from Malone and Booth, they definitely have a different identity and path that they want to have moving forward. And Adelman was there for all of it and got to see firsthand the things that went wrong. And I think he definitely has some ideas and things that he wants to incorporate. And I think that the players all having his back in the situation was a really big deal because, like you said, Matt, a lot of us have had assistant coaches that sometimes we like a lot more than the head coach. And I feel like that's maybe a case here where it's like, well, that guy kind of knows, like, he's got a fresh, different perspective on some of these things. And I think a lot of the guys see that as well. But to get into some of the quotes and some of the press conference stuff from today, I thought the first thing that he really did that was like a tone setter was come out and call out this simple message, which was, come back in shape or get left behind. This isn't like a we'll ease into it kind of vibe. It's like, no, we're showing up day one like we're chasing a ring for, on day one. If you almost think about like an NBA season, like a long road trip to a championship, you don't want to start the road trip with your gas tank half full. I think Adelman, wants his guys revved up and ready to go by the time training camp hits, because the fast starts often mean healthy finishes. And he said that teams that get off to great starts, usually at the end of the year, have the best chance of being healthy in these big games. That will be the expectation to come back in much better shape. And, I know he's not just talking about cardio. Maybe for some guys he is. Like we think of Jamal Murray always coming back to training camp out of shape. But I think he's also talking about the kind of mental and physical discipline that lasts until June. I think the offseason was definitely a big focus in this press conference. I think he wants the guys to be in the gym this summer. I think he wants guys around each other and not just, only meeting each other or being around each other during the training camp. But I hope the guys are together this summer and have better vibes, because last year it was widely reported that the Nuggets players were not in town and they were not in the gym and they were not with the coaching staff. And I think that was a lot to do with Malone and them being tired of Malone's stuff. So I think Adelman was really trying to get the point across that we need guys around, that the work is done in the offseason, and that's going to give a good impression to the coaching staff. But this summer and training camp is definitely going to be a big deal for the Nuggets this year, more than most. So, I mean, if you guys had any thoughts on the offseason and how guys want, how they want them to work or not, we can talk about that a little bit.
Yeah, one thing that I heard Adelman say throughout the press conference was kind of having an emphasis on having a championship mentality. And one of the quotes he said, and it's one of my favorite quotes as I was getting through college sports, was "Win the day," and it's all the little things throughout the day that help you be a better person on the court and off the court. And that's just that championship mentality. And I think that's part of the Nuggets culture. And so I think what the Cronkies were trying to do with hiring David Adelman was this cultural continuity, not trying to reinvent the culture, but reestablish the culture. And Adelman fits that, and he's just going to raise the bar with that championship mentality. And then, as you mentioned, he wants guys in the gym this offseason, in his gym this offseason, not just working with their own guys, but kind of have an emphasis on having a merit-based system where playing time is earned with offseason work and training camp effort. And so, I mean, if you're a young guy in the system with the Nuggets, you want to win your minutes. You want to, have a good first impression with your new head coach. I mean, they've been around him, but now he is the head coach. You want to have that good first impression.
It almost sounds like a serious culture.
No doubt. Yeah.
Moving in one direction, right?
Yeah. I mean, I can't say for certain at all what the inner mechanisms of the Nuggets organization is or was like last year or years prior, but it certainly sounds like the vibes have shifted and become a lot more focused. And I think Adelman, that's probably the best thing that he can bring in this moment. And I hope that pays off. I mean, everything that he's saying seems to plant the seeds of a very focused and serious team. I think DNVR was talking about this earlier about how like organizations like Minnesota and OKC, they're not just going to get worse over the offseason. They're going to be pushing to get better too. And let's face it, we've stagnated, we've plateaued, and we just don't have that edge anymore like we used to. So I think this is a good chance to recalibrate our mental state and get out of whatever funk or whatever hangover we've been in. So it'd be really nice to have guys like Jamal come in full strength right away. If we keep the same squad as last year, it'd be nice to see us all at full force. So excited for the new change. I think those little things will pay dividends in the long run.
Yeah, one of the One of the things that stood out to me about his press conference actually was he said a lot of great things. His confidence in the way that he carried himself in that press conference, I thought was huge. I mean, he answered the question right away, straight to the point. He can get a little long-winded sometimes, and I think he did, but he gave some excellent explanations to some things. And um, you guys bring up great points about the team. This team is going to come back in shape. But he also said that he was going to go, like, if some guys go out somewhere else. I think he's assuming kind of Jokic and Murray, and he's going to go to them. He said, I'm going to go see those guys. I'm going to make an effort to go see those guys. And I think that kind of speaks to the fact that Malone didn't do that. And the story of the offseason so far is that I think Malone kind of had his favorites, as all coaches do to some respect, and he kind of let him get away with it. We saw that with Jamal. He let Jamal get away with whatever he was going to do in the offseason. And Jokic has his family's back in Serbia. I get it, and I'm not really worried about Jokic. I don't think any of us are in that respect. But he made it a point that he was going to go see those guys. And then another thing that I thought was interesting from the press conference is that Josh Kroenke and DA also answered this question kind of simultaneously, or was asked to both of them. And it was kind of a question about how will DA fit with the new GM, whoever that is. And I think something that was interesting is that DA said, this isn't, going out to find your best friend. This is, we're going to find somebody that works with the system that we can agree with. And it's all finding, interpersonal, connections and making sure that you're on the same page. But also speaking to that fact is that, I think DA said, putting personal preference and your personal thought process behind you when it comes to the success of the team. And I think that was a huge jab at not only just Calvin Booth, but also Michael Malone, kind of in a backhanded sort of way. But it was more of just like, we're not gonna let personal ideas of what we think individually the team should do, but more along the lines of what is good for the team as a whole. And I think that spoke volumes.
You need cohesion.
You need cohesion, and I think that spoke volumes to how he was going to approach this offseason. And I love it
For sure.
I love everything he said in the press conference, the way he handled himself. And they gave no light to what was going on with the GM situation. It was all the same stuff we've been hearing, is that we're looking at stuff, in-house, especially with Ben Tenzer, and then we're looking at stuff outside as well. And I think Josh Kroenke made it a big point to say, I'm going to value what other people say about our organization, because bringing in a third party or having somebody that has a different outlook is always, a good thing in this situation.
Fresh perspective.
Fresh perspective. And he said it might not, I might not be seeing what other people see. And I think he's going about it professionally. I think DA has gone about it professionally. And I think, with Adelman's history, I think he'll work well or make it an effort to work well with whoever's brought in. So that's what I got from that press conference.
Oh, for sure. I mean, I feel like one of the other big things about this too is like sort of the evolution of the team is going to be sort of a theme. I think, like, he said new ideas are good ideas. I have to give them something to come back that excites them. And I think what he's really trying to say here is that, we're going to evolve the system. That doesn't mean we're not just going to roll back the same 2023 title, playbook. It's about the tweaks and wrinkles and improvements that you can make. And it's almost like a great band or like a director or something. Like if you think about like the Nuggets as like a blockbuster movie or something where Jokic is the lead, Jamal Murray is the co-star. Now Adelman's like this new director, right? So like the OG film, the 2023 title run was a hit, a classic. But even the best franchises need a fresh direction to stay sharp. But you don't just want to make sequels that recycle the same story and the same shots and everything. Like, you need to kind of roll out the things that work, but also add some new elements into that. And I think one of the questions that, Evan was going to have to here was, how will this impact the younger player development as well? And I feel like that's also really a part of this. And that's what they talked about a lot today, is that the player development within is going to be huge, because I don't think there's that much they can really do realistically this offseason in terms of trades and everything and free agent. They don't have the most, flexibility in that regard. So a lot of what's going to happen this summer is that they need to, rely on some of those young guys like Pickett, like Estrada, like a Peyton Watson to take steps up. And I think actually having Adelman be at the helm now is going to help those guys in confidence, because I don't think Malone really ushered in confidence for some of those guys. He definitely picked his favorites, and he definitely picked on guys a little bit more than others. And I think that these young players will probably feel a little bit more free and confident to play how they want to play, or play what they need, do what they need to do, and feel comfortable with the coach that they have. So I guess that was my thought on the younger development and the things that they need for some of these guys.
It seems like the theme that's kind of emerging here is that there's I don't know if ego death is the right phrasing for it, but there's definitely like less of an ego than there was before. Like, I think the funny realization that kind of came over me, and I'm sure a lot of fans, when Malone and Booth were let go, is that there's been this quiet, toxic vibe going on within the organization for probably since the championship run. A lot of egos battling each other, a lot of people kind of fighting it out over pissing matches, and I don't know, I'm sure you guys can attest to this as college athletes, but I've seen in my professional work and everything that the teams that succeed are the ones that don't take things personally. They just do what they got to do to accomplish what they're looking for, and there's no trivial BS that you get bogged down in. And it sounds like the tone is changing, so that's good. It sounds like there's a big professional perspective. And guys like Adelman are probably the antithesis of a dude with an ego. I just cannot picture him getting too full of himself. So I think that's really good. And I do think that that'll at least encourage our younger guys, to tie it back to that, to take more ownership of their roles and feel more confident, and then we can be less reliant on our core five, which has been the story of the last several years. So I think that's a good foundation.
Yeah, I love the way you put all that, and how you kind of alluded how it works out into corporate America as well. Yeah. With player development, you're building trust. You're also defining roles, and with that, you're growing young talent with player buy-in. And if you're not bought in, and you got to put your you kind of got to put your ego aside, as you said, and that's kind of the rejuvenated, Nuggets culture. I mean, they're getting rid of guys that have big egos. Saw it in the front office. So, I mean, why wouldn't they make the same decision down at the player level? So, and also on the player development with that piece, you're also empowering leaders. And I think DA is a great guy for this role, because he's already done that. And he tipped his cap to the guys during the playoffs for buying in, and guys for stepping up. I mean, even Jokic, somewhat coaching the team, stepped up vocally, and you saw other guys step up. You saw CB step up in a leadership role. So really happy to see how this player development is kind of rejuvenating this whole Nuggets culture. And so I'm really glad that they made this decision now, and that Adelman's kind of making that one of the precedents of the team.
Yeah. I think one of the things that stood out to me throughout the whole presser, not just on the player development piece, was the word "we," and I think DA used that as, not only just the coaching staff, but the Nuggets as a whole, the whole organization. And I think I know he's going to take that into, that's how he's done things. That's how he's presented himself, is we are going to do this, and we are going to do this together. And I think that's something that kind of speaks volumes to a player development piece, because I don't think we saw that with guys like, I think some guys kind of got out of the woods a little bit. CB definitely got out of the woods. I think P. Watt and Strother kind of started peeking out of the woods a little bit, but it was more, there were a lot of guys left behind. And as Da kind of said in his press conference, you can't do that. You got to have 9 guys. You love to have 10, but in all honesty, you have to go at this as a whole perspective, as like a group as a whole. And so I think, as far as player development goes, when you give guys confidence, and especially those the confidence to step up as leaders for these guys, and to know that they have a good place to go, I think it's something that you can't. You guys are
You can't
the chat is funny right now, but
chill out, chat.
chill out, chat. Yeah, you can't. I don't think we can get too caught up with it right now. We don't have the full coaching staff.
Yeah.
And Adelman made that a point of whoever steps into that role, and the guys that were there this postseason did a great job. It wasn't just him stepping up into that head coach role. It was the whole, when you got one guy that steps up, you got to fill his place, and that's a domino effect all the way down. And I think, to give them credit, I think they did a great job in handling, the situation that was handed to them. And Adelman made a point to say that. And yeah.
I mean, I agree with everything everybody said. I think the best path forward is that the Nuggets young guys get better, and that young core is buying into what the coaching staff says they need to do for them, especially this offseason. These guys aren't on all-star trajectories, but you can be an all-star in your role. Like, you need guys like Cason Wallace, Alex Caruso, Jaden McDaniels, like guys that buy into what they do well, whatever that is, and then work on what they also need to do and what the coaching staff tells them. And that applies to Jamal and Porter and all the starters, even Jokic too. I think, this is something else that he mentioned a little bit, but shooting was a topic that he brought up in terms of depth, and that guys need, to be real shooters when it comes to the playoffs and not just have good, regular season numbers. But the other thing he said too, before, we'll move on a little bit here, something he mentioned about playing the play style. It's not like he's really trying to turn into like a run and gun team. He said something about if it takes away some of our pace numbers, that's okay if you win games in May, and just slowing down the team and everything, and outthinking other teams and executing more. He said you have to be efficient, you have to be clean. And I don't know if that's like the best way to go about this, because I think the Pacers are showing us that pace works in the NBA, but I also don't know if the Nuggets really have that kind of roster construction to play like the Pacers play, or play like the Oklahoma City Thunder play. So that'll be interesting how that shakes out this regular season, but it is going to be good to see him get a full training camp and a full regular season to really figure these things out. But I liked what he mentioned about the GM role. I know we Matt made this point. He said the business is not about, or he said this business is about cohesion. It's about moving forward and winning. That's it. It's not about finding your best friend. I think that was a good point, because I think Adelman's going to be a lot more prepared to work with the new GM than Malone, who was stubborn, who we've mentioned before. But he knows what Malone got fired and what to avoid moving forward. But any closing thoughts on the press conference right now before we get into a little bit more, topics for a couple minutes here before we head out?
It's out of the cage, baby.
Out of the cage. Any more thoughts? Okay. Yeah.
No,
we'll see what happens. But
everybody's quiet.
All right. Well, okay. You know what? Matt's actually got a quick little ad break here for us if you want to take the floor.
Yeah. All right, guys. Let's talk about something that we all think about, but we rarely talk about, man. Hair loss, mental health, bedroom performance. Hims is changing the game by making it easy to get all the help that you need all online. There's no waiting rooms. There's no awkward chats. Real science-based solutions delivered straight to your door. I know a lot of younger guys are starting to fall victim to the hair loss. I am a little bit, and that's why I've got my hair hybrids right here. So head to forhims.com and take your first step towards feeling like you again. That's forhims.com. Start now, and your future self will thank you.
I need to mix in some hymns with some dude wipes, I think. That's a combo
That's a great
built
combo.
to last right there.
That's a great combo.
Appreciate it, Matt. We're trying to get hymns or just anyone on this planet to sponsor the show. So shout out hymns, some free promo right there. So all right, looking ahead now. The next steps in the offseason, we're going to discuss some of those things right now. Obviously, the GM being one. I thought it was kind of funny that we hired the coach before the GM, but we also mentioned how we think Adelman's going to be on board and on the same page as the new GM, whoever they choose to bring in. But something that happened yesterday, Russ got surgery. His hand was broken in 2 places, and that explains our Russ is better with his left hand theory. Not sure how many. I don't know how he made as many threes as he did in the Clippers series with that hand, but he did, and that came to fall in the Oklahoma City series. But I would not expect Russ back personally. In my opinion, I think that he probably earned himself into a larger contract with somebody else, a team that has, a couple, $3 or $4 more million to offer him a season. He's got that player option to come back, but that's going to be for $3 million, something like that on the vet minimum. So in my opinion, and it could be wrong, maybe Russ does want to be here and likes playing here, but I think he's probably going to move on. So that does lead into questions of who they're going to bring back in terms of ball handling and athleticism. But what do you think about that situation, and do you want Russ back?
I would take him back. I think Jokic identified him for a reason. And I don't know, I think Russ likes playing with the team. So I hear your point about him maybe getting a better offer elsewhere. But I do think a lot of players like what we have. I think they want to play with Jokic. And I don't know, Russ has made a lot of money already. He's not hurting for money. So I think there are reasons to be worried that he would want to leave, but I don't know. I think he could be a guy who buys into the system and takes a minimum contract and says, screw it, I want to stay with this team and I want to see if we can pull something off, because I think this is probably where I could do that. Because aside from our team, where does he go? I mean, if we just think about how the playoffs have played out, so I don't know, New York, Indiana.
His best chance to win a ring is probably staying here.
Yeah, I would think so too.
Joining OKC, I guess. But
so I think, like I said, I think he's earned enough money in his time, right? So what is the reason to move on, if it's not to win? So I think there's a good chance he stays. That would be great. I would love to keep him.
Yeah, I was about to say, not only did Jokic bring him for a reason, but I think he wants to be here. He wants a championship, and I think he's really bought into the Nuggets culture. Not only that, I think he's a really good leader in the locker room as a veteran. I think going into the next season, if we keep him around, you do have to take his workload off a little bit. Hi, Rue. Matt's dog Rue just panned in the background for the Spotify and Apple listeners.
He's been bed behind me the whole time. Oh,
but
she must. Hang on.
Yeah. Going off of what I was saying about Russ in the locker room piece, you do have to kind of take his workload down. You can't rely on him in the playoffs, because the Russ
can't
kid
be
isn't
the sixth most important player.
Exactly, right. You need him more, and I think I talked about it a little bit last show. You need him more in a DeAndre Jordan type role, play him in blowout games. Play him. Maybe.
There's still value there.
There's still value there for
not
sure.
Not all the time.
You don't need to use him all the time, but I think, he's got the winner mentality, and I think he definitely fits the championship mentality that Adelman's trying to build with this new Nuggets team.
I do think he probably sees himself taking on the mantle of mentoring guys and being a bit of a DeAndre. He seemed like that dude, right? Taking dudes under his wing.
Oh yeah.
He was that dude. 100%.
Yeah, exactly.
He's been that guy.
Yeah,
he's been that guy.
Well, I don't know him personally, but yeah, I think.
Oh, I do.
I can see Russ filling that role, right? And I think.
Yeah.
I don't know what else would be motivating him. I just don't think money's a thing for him at this point.
Yeah, it shouldn't be. It shouldn't be for a lot of these guys, but you never know, because even a couple $1 million here or there makes a difference to a lot of people. But a guy that I hope opts out is Dario Saric, who's got that $5 million, $6 million option that he can opt into. He probably will, because that's a free $5 million where he just gets to sit on the bench and do nothing. Or Adelman is able to unlock him and he actually is contributing to the team. But yeah, the Russ stuff is interesting. I guess we'll see. I hear your points, Evan, that what else is there out there to get instead of getting a ring, something he has never done. So it'd be great to have him back and be in that like eighth or ninth most important level where like you could sit him if you had the option. But yeah, I guess we'll see what's gonna happen. But what's something else on the radar here?
I think
yeah,
Russ,
I think we.
sorry. I think Russ has
Yeah, go for it.
The only thing I'll say is I think Russ has unfinished business with the
Sure.
Nuggets, and
Okay.
I knowing the mentality of his that we can see as fans and from the outside, he's one of those guys that's like I have to finish what we started, and it doesn't really speak to him, leaving OKC and doing all that, but I mean, he spent a lot of time there. And I think he's back to a team that really has a good shot, like you guys were saying. And I think he's going to look at it and say, man, I'm at the end of my rope. I don't, I wouldn't want to pack up and move anywhere if I were him, even if that, means a pay raise. I can still get $3 million, hang out here, and we got a good shot at the championship. And yeah, like to your points, I think he likes being here. I think he likes,
and he's liked by the fans too. He's
Oh,
had
yeah, the
such
fans.
Well,
a
that's what I was gonna say.
Yeah.
Mentally, like it's got to feel a lot better to be here than in LA.
100%.
100%.
We're actually
Yeah, the
cheering for
fans-
him in Denver.
Yeah, yeah.
Right.
I think
We
Denver
didn't boo him.
really take a liking to Russ, even though he is that, Russ giveth, Russ taketh away.
He's polarizing.
But he definitely
Yeah.
polarizing, but Denver still loves him for that, and I think that's
And
great.
we loved it. Yeah, I thought he was a lot more positive this year than he was negative. So I know some people might disagree, but I thought he was a lot more positive. But yeah, I guess we're going to see what happens with the Russell Westbrook stuff. But I think from the press conference today, we can sort of indicate and put the pieces together that I don't think we're going to see a super swinging like big move this summer. I don't think there's going to be any trades or anything like that. Things we've talked about before. I personally don't think so. I think we're more or less going to run it back and then add things around the edges to improve the team. Like maybe that includes Russell Westbrook coming back. Maybe that's Bruce Brown coming back because that's a guy that we think is like wanting to be here too and will take a pay cut to get it. Maybe it is like a guy like Taurean Prince or like a Seth Curry or Brooke Lopez or something. Guys that are going to come here and maybe want to play for a winning team and don't mind taking a little pay cut to do so. But I also have a couple like, is there, first of all, are any of those names intriguing? Obviously, Bruce Brown we would like, but like Taurean Prince, Brooke Lopez is like a backup center. I know he's kind of old, but if like you could play him in like a 15 to 20 minute spot, but does that hurt the growth of Deron Holmes? I don't know. So like that's what's going to be hard about this offseason.
I would honestly take a Taurean Prince option, honestly, because I think it gives you another guy that is physically similar to AG, and I think we saw how big of an impact AG makes on this team, but he's the only one. He's the only one. He's one of one. That's why he's Mr. Nugget. That's why we saw him, play the way he played through everything that he played through with the hamstring and every other injury that he was going into the playoffs with. And I think it speaks volumes if you can get another guy like AG, not only to give AG some rest, but to also give you that physicality and a guy that's gonna go put it all on the line for you. I would love to see.
Really, it's just the
something like that.
flexibility piece.
Sure.
Like, because that's what we're seeing with like OKC and Indiana and teams like that, is they have so many guys that can play depending on when the series, what the series calls for. The Nuggets had 7 guys that they're like, you have to play. There's no other options. And so I think it would just be great to have options and vets like that where you can sit Russ because you're like, you know what, Russ, this isn't your series. You can sit, Strother, Peyton Watson. I wouldn't, those guys are younger, but like where you can just say like, hey, this isn't your series. We'll see you see if we can advance and it could be a series for you. But like some of the vets that can come in, excite me, I guess, but they need to create some roster space as well.
I want Bruce B. get Brucey B back in Denver. You know he wants to be here. We already talked about it on a previous show, but showed up to a playoff game and he tweeted out, "I miss playoff basketball." So he belongs in Denver. I think he not necessarily regrets his decision for going for the money, but he misses the guys. Let's let Brucey B out of the cage.
Put that on a t-shirt.
Put that on a t-shirt, yeah.
Yeah.
Come on, Cronkies, don't get cheap. Give us t-shirts.
I know,
man.
right? We'll hand out t-shirts
I
next
don't
playoff,
know.
maybe.
Oh my gosh. How good does it look though, like when you're watching a playoff game and every other team
I
is
know.
wearing t-shirts?
Yeah.
It's
I know, bro. Drives me nuts.
well, and it looked good, like the way they set up the towels with like the 5280. I mean,
Yeah.
it looks great when they're all on chairs, but when everybody's waiting, you can't see the 5280. I think if everybody was
Right.
wearing the t-shirts, you might be able to do something cool with the t-shirts, just like how OKC did against us, where they broke it up by section. I thought that was really cool, but kind of besides the
100%.
point. Don't mean to go off on a tangent on that, but
Get on your
No,
soap.
go off, King. Go off, King. You watch King.
Watch
go
King.
off, Washed King. You do you, boo.
New slang dropped. Go off, watch King.
God.
You dropped this.
No, I mean, you drop. You did put this back on. Have you got anything?
Nah,
Nah, just vibing.
just keep
I
it
mean,
real.
I've read a couple articles. They there were some ideas out there with trades and like Goga Badatse would come up like as a backup center, or I saw one with Royce O'Neal and Kevin Durant, and I'm not really into the Kevin Durant stuff. I don't think that's going to help anything. I think you'd have to really gut your team to do that, and that doesn't help the depth issue. As good as he could be with this team, that doesn't help your depth issue. But I saw one on Sports Illustrated that was Michael Porter for Cam Johnson and a first-round pick, which I thought was just wild because I would take Cam Johnson, of course, but the fact that that Brooklyn in this scenario would also be throwing in a first-round pick would be like insane. I just don't think that's going to happen. I think in a Porter deal for that, you would have to probably throw in a lot more than that because Cam Johnson's a really good 3-and-D kind of guy that I think would be better than MPJ. So that would be crazy. I saw one for DeRozan, Porter and DeRozan, which I thought, that doesn't help spacing wise, but at least we know that DeRozan could score a bit here and there. So there's just not a lot of things that really scream to you as like really viable. Is my point? Is like we're not in the position to. We don't have the assets really and the trade value for some of these guys to send out, and that teams would really want. I mean, you never know. Like, there's always teams out there. There's always guys that you can trade, but I think they're just going to run it back, sort of, and kind of fill in guys like Bruce Brown, Torian Prince, guys like that, and then honestly, the trade deadline in February next year might be where you see moves happen. Maybe some guys recoup some of that value, and look like we can make a swing and a move for more depth, or another all-star if that's the case. But yeah, I don't know. This offseason is going to be kind of, I think in some ways, boring. I think the NBA as a whole is going to have some really interesting things that happen, like with Giannis, Kevin Durant. Like, there's a lot of big names that are going to be on the move this summer probably. But I think for the Nuggets standpoint, I think it's more or less going to be boring. I think we're going to more or less run it back with the same team, just a couple other veterans along the edges, which I actually think would be a really good offseason if that was the case. Because I don't know if we need to make some big swinging move right now. But yeah, hopefully Deron Holmes Island with Matt. Maybe Matt can build a big house on Deron Holmes Island.
I'm not leaving Deron Holmes Island, man.
Put all your
Not
stock
even if
in
there's
it.
a tsunami.
I'm putting my stock on him. I want to have faith and I want to believe, and that's what this fan base is built off
Me
of,
too,
and
man.
that's what it has been built off of, is belief. So I want to believe.
Summer League, baby.
Yeah.
Deron Holmes Summer League this year. I'm actually pumped for that. I want to see what he's got.
Your Achilles, dude.
Yeah. Please don't get hurt, man. I'm gonna be scared for him now.
God.
Yeah, I mean,
Trey Alexander.
To your point, Cam, about how you're not quite sure if this will be anything like crazy this offseason. I think a lot of fans are wanting a shakeup, and I'm kind of on the fence about it too. Like, you want something different, but at the same time, like, MPJ's not a bad player, and in the playoffs, part of the reason he was inconsistent was because he was hurt. And I don't know. It's just I've gone back and forth in my head about.
Yeah.
I mean, I feel like if the perfect opportunity presents itself, by all means go for it. But it's nothing that you should kind of jump the gun on right away. Getting rid of a guy like MPJ. Yeah. And
don't
the
gut your
Crockies,
team just to get off a guy.
the Crockies like him too. I mean, he's a Missouri guy, Mizzou guy. I don't know.
Right.
I could see him sticking around.
That report was something.
Yeah. So we'll see.
Yeah, no, 100%, man. 100%.
I think a big thing going into this offseason, and this is a very apparent in the presser today, is how good are we gonna? How good is this coaching staff? How good are the players going to be as a part of player development? And I know we touched on this earlier, but I think player development is going to be your big swinging move, and we've seen that the past 2 off seasons, especially with Christian Brown. The jumps that he's made, it's possible. It's very possible.
We need P-Watt.
And
we need P-Watt to
think
take that leap.
I agree. I totally
Definitely.
agree with you 100%. P-Watt needs to take that leap. I think Julian Strother can grow into his a little bit more. And I think it was talked about yesterday, on DNVR or today. But it was also talked about, Jalen Pickett kind of growing a little bit further into his game and making sure that he can
At least be an option.
At least be an option as a ball handler. And if that happens, that's your big swinging move. Those are your big acquisitions, are the guys that you still have, and you can still, that's your roster. But they made a tremendous leap in the offseason. We've seen it before, and I think a David Adelman led coaching staff is going to be able to do it. It's just whether those guys are going to be able to buy in, like we've said.
Right. I mean, you definitely need some fresh faces. I don't think you can just run it back with the same exact team. You do need like a Bruce Brown, Taurean Prince level, Seth Curry, whoever that is. Like you definitely need some veterans to come in here because you do want that flexibility and options. Like OKC cannot play Ken Richard Williams a whole series, and then the next series have him come in and then sit a guy like Aaron Wiggins. Like I would love to have that flexibility and those options because those are also going to be guys that help you get through the regular season, which was something that was also talked about in this press conference, is getting through the regular season a little bit more. But we're about at the end of the show here. We're almost hitting an hour. So if anybody has any closing thoughts on anything we talked about or any other, thoughts before we go.
I'm
All
excited.
right, let's addle that cage. I'm excited for an off season. Hopefully there's some good stuff. The fidget spinner makes an appearance for those on Spotify and Apple.
Can you hear it?
And yeah. Oh yeah.
Jesus.
That sound
So
takes me
clear.
back to 2017.
Rip to everybody.
2017 sound right there.
Listening to this.
Sorry, y'all.
Nobody's listened to 57 minutes.
Nobody's listened this far.
Nobody's here. I guarantee it. We can say whatever we want right now.
Yep. If you have, subscribe, and thanks for tuning in.
Oh yeah, subscribe. Go catch us on the Washed Kings pod at Instagram or on TikTok at the Washed Kings. And yeah, we're gonna be making content all summer. So Matt, why don't you hit that outro music and we're gonna get out of here. All right. Hey.